What if I told you that America's greatest enemy wasn't the British, the Spanish, or even itself during the Civil War? What if the real killer was invisible, unstoppable, and wiped out more Americans than all wars combined? Before vaccines, before antibiotics, before anyone even knew what a germ was, diseases didn't just kill millions. They decided who won wars, which cities survived, and literally rewrote the future of this country. This is the story of 7 plagues that America wants you to forget. We love talking about the brave generals, the bold explorers, the founding fathers. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Invisible, microscopic killers had just as much influence over American history as George Washington ever did. From the first colonial settlements to the Roaring Twenties, diseases carved through populations, changed migration patterns, sparked medical revolutions, and even determined who won entire wars. Today, we're counting down 7 diseases that didn't just kill Americans, they transformed America. And trust me, some of these will genuinely shock you. Let's get infected with knowledge. Smallpox. Let's start with the original American nightmare. Smallpox. When European colonists arrived in the New World, they brought more than just ambition and terrible fashion. They brought smallpox, a disease that indigenous populations had zero immunity to. And the results were apocalyptic. Between the 1500s and 1800s, smallpox killed an estimated 90% of the Native American population. We're talking about tens of millions of people. Entire civilizations, the Aztecs, the Incas, countless tribes across North America, were decimated not by swords or guns, but by a virus they couldn't see coming. Here's the dark part. Some colonists knew exactly what they were doing. In 1763, British officers deliberately gave smallpox-infected blankets to Native Americans during Pontiac's War. Yes, biological warfare in the 18th century. Charming. But smallpox didn't just target indigenous peoples. During the Revolutionary War, it ravaged the Continental Army. George Washington made a bold call. He ordered the entire army to be inoculated, one of the first mass immunization campaigns in history. It worked. Many historians believe this decision helped America win its independence. Without smallpox, the map of America would be unrecognizable, and independence might never have happened. Yellow fever. Next up, yellow fever, the disease that almost made Philadelphia a ghost town. In the summer of 1793, yellow fever invaded America's capital city like a horror movie villain. Victims turned yellow, vomited black blood, and died in agony. The city lost 10% of its entire population in just a few months. That's over 5,000 people dead. People fled the city in panic. The government shut down. Even George Washington packed up and left. Philadelphia went from bustling capital to apocalyptic wasteland almost overnight. But here's the twist. Nobody knew what caused it. Some blamed bad air. Others thought it was divine punishment. Spoiler alert, it was mosquitoes. Tiny blood-sucking mosquitoes carrying a virus that could drop you in days. Yellow fever didn't just terrorize Philadelphia. It struck port cities all along the East Coast and down into the South. New Orleans got hammered repeatedly. The disease killed so many people that it shaped urban planning. Cities started draining swamps and improving sanitation, unknowingly fighting the mosquitoes. Oh, and here's a historical curveball. Yellow fever is part of why America got the Louisiana Purchase so cheap. Napoleon's troops in Haiti were being slaughtered by the disease, so he gave up on his New World ambitions and sold the territory to Thomas Jefferson. One virus, 828,000 square miles. Yellow fever didn't just kill thousands. It gave America half its landmass. Cholera. Let's talk about the disease that came from your drinking water: cholera. Cholera hit America hard in the 19th century, especially during three major pandemics between 1832 and 1866. This wasn't a slow, wasting disease. Cholera could kill you in hours. You'd get violent diarrhea and vomiting, become severely dehydrated, and just die. Sometimes within 12 hours of your first symptom. The 1832 outbreak killed thousands in New York City alone. People were so terrified they rioted, believing doctors were secretly killing patients to study their bodies. Dark times. But that wasn't even the worst part. Nobody knew cholera spread through contaminated water. People kept drinking from the same wells, rivers, and public pumps that were basically swimming pools of bacteria. Cities like New York and Chicago were cesspools, literally. Cholera forced America to get serious about public health. Cities built proper sewage systems, established clean water supplies, and created health departments. Dr. John Snow in London figured out the water connection in 1854, and American cities started catching on. The final major outbreak in 1866 killed 600 people in New York in just 2 months. But by then, city leaders had finally started listening to scientists. Water treatment plants began popping up, and cholera slowly became a problem of the past. Cholera turned American cities from disease-ridden death traps into modern, sanitary metropolises. Tuberculosis. Time for America's most romantic killer. Tuberculosis, or as they called it, consumption. TB was the leading cause of death in 19th century America, responsible for 1 in every 4 deaths. It was everywhere. Rich, poor, urban, rural. Tuberculosis didn't discriminate, and it killed you slowly, painfully, over months or even years. The disease attacked your lungs, making you cough up blood, lose massive amounts of weight, and basically waste away. Hence the name consumption. It consumed you from the inside. But here's where it gets weird. People thought TB made you beautiful. The pale skin, the feverish eyes, the delicate frame. It became romanticized in art and literature. Tragic poets and fragile heroines dying of consumption became a whole aesthetic. It was the 1800s version of heroin chic, except people were actually dying. TB shaped American culture in surprising ways. The disease drove people west to dry, sunny climates like Colorado and Arizona, thinking the air would cure them. Entire towns sprang up as health resorts. Los Angeles became a boomtown, partly because of TB patients seeking sunshine. The search for a cure pushed medical science forward. Sanatoriums became the standard treatment, basically quarantine resorts in the mountains. Eventually, in 1943, scientists discovered streptomycin, the first effective TB antibiotic. Tuberculosis didn't just kill millions, it built cities and launched America's modern healthcare system. The 1918 influenza. And now, the big one. The 1918 influenza pandemic, the deadliest disease outbreak in American history. Let's set the scene. World War I is raging. Young soldiers are packed into trenches, trains, and troop ships. Then, a new flu strain emerges. But this isn't your typical flu. This one is a monster. The 1918 flu killed an estimated 675,000 Americans. More than died in both World Wars, Korea, and Vietnam combined. Worldwide, around 50 million dead. Some estimates go as high as 100 million. And here's the terrifying part. It targeted the healthy. Most flus kill the very young and very old. But this one killed people in their 20s and 30s, the strongest members of society. Your immune system basically overreacted and destroyed your lungs. The healthier you were, the more danger you were in. American cities shut down, stores, schools, churches closed. People wore masks. Sound familiar? In Philadelphia, a massive war bond parade went ahead despite warnings, and 4,500 people died in a single week. Bodies piled up so fast they ran out of coffins. The pandemic ended almost as mysteriously as it began. By the summer of 1919, it had burned through the population and faded away, leaving a traumatized nation in its wake. But here's the historical amnesia part. Most people today barely know about it. World War I overshadowed it in the history books, but the 1918 flu changed everything. It revolutionized public health, virus research, and proved that invisible enemies could be deadlier than any army. The 1918 flu killed more Americans than any war and taught the nation that pandemics don't care about borders or battlefields. Polio. Let's jump to the 1940s and 50s, when every parent's worst nightmare was polio. Polio, or poliomyelitis, was a viral disease that mostly struck children. In the worst cases, it paralyzed you, sometimes permanently. Kids would go to bed healthy and wake up unable to move their legs. Some victims ended up in iron lungs, giant metal cylinders that breathed for them. The 1952 polio epidemic was the worst in American history. Over 57,000 cases, with more than 3,000 deaths and 21,000 cases of paralysis. Parents were terrified. Public swimming pools shut down. Kids were kept indoors all summer. Polio became synonymous with childhood terror. President Franklin D. Roosevelt himself had polio. It left him paralyzed from the waist down, though the public rarely saw this. He founded the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, which funded research through the famous March of Dimes campaign. Then, in 1955, Jonas Salk announced his polio vaccine. Mass vaccination campaigns began immediately, and polio cases plummeted. By the 1960s, polio was essentially eliminated in the United States. Polio turned America into a vaccination nation and proved that science could conquer even the most terrifying childhood diseases. Typhoid fever. Our final disease might sound boring compared to the others, but typhoid fever gave us one of history's most fascinating villains, Typhoid Mary. Typhoid fever spread through contaminated food and water, causing high fever, weakness, abdominal pain, and in severe cases, death. It was a major problem in crowded, unsanitary cities of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Enter Mary Mallon, an Irish immigrant working as a cook in New York. Between 1900 and 1997, everywhere Mary worked, people got sick, really sick. She was an asymptomatic carrier, meaning she had typhoid, but showed no symptoms herself. She was essentially a walking biological weapon and had no idea. Health officials tracked her down and tried to quarantine her, but Mary didn't believe she was sick. She kept escaping and getting new cooking jobs under fake names, spreading typhoid wherever she went. She was forcibly quarantined on an island for most of her life, the first documented asymptomatic carrier in American history. Mary Mallon became a media sensation and a public health cautionary tale. Her story helped scientists understand asymptomatic carriers and changed how America handled infectious diseases. Typhoid Mary showed America that you don't have to look sick to be dangerous, and changed public health forever. So there you have it. 7 diseases that killed millions, toppled civilizations, shaped cities, sparked medical revolutions, and literally changed the borders of America. We love to think of history as great men and women making bold decisions. But the truth is, invisible killers, viruses and bacteria we couldn't even see, were calling the shots just as much as any president or general. Smallpox wiped out populations and decided wars. Yellow fever gave us Louisiana. Cholera built our cities. Tuberculosis sent people west. The 1918 flu killed more than all wars. Polio terrified a generation. And Typhoid Mary taught us that danger doesn't always look dangerous. America wasn't just shaped by people and wars. It was shaped by plagues. So which disease shocked you the most? Drop a comment below. And if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button, because history isn't just battles and declarations. Sometimes it's bacteria. Thanks for watching History Crypt. Stay curious, stay healthy, and wash your hands.